Did you know the police uniforms in A Clockwork Orange were made from real fireman suits? Yes, actual firefighting gear, painted white, stitched with fake badges, and worn by actors who had no idea they'd become part of cinematic history. Imagine stepping onto a film set in the middle of a cold English winter, dressed like a futuristic officer, while Stanley Kubrick watches from behind the camera with a calm, quiet intensity. The air smells like old film reels and strong black coffee. The set hums with tension, excitement, and a little fear. This wasn't just a movie. It was a revolution wrapped in violence, music, and strange beauty. And behind every scene, every chilling smile from Alex, there's a secret you've never heard. Let's dive in and discover 20 weird and amazing facts about A Clockwork Orange. Number 20. The lead actor had never acted before. Malcolm McDowell was not a movie star when he got the role of Alex. In fact, he'd never played a lead in a film before. He was mostly known for theater and one small movie called If, which caught Stanley Kubrick's eye. Kubrick saw something wild and smart in Malcolm's eyes, something that couldn't be taught. When Malcolm first read the script, he was nervous. The words were strange, the violence shocking, and the language, nadsat, was like a secret code. But Kubrick told him, "Don't act like a monster. Act like a boy who thinks he's brilliant." During filming, Malcolm often felt confused, excited, and scared all at once. He once said he didn't fully understand the movie until years later. And that final smile he gives at the end, that wasn't planned. It just happened. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 19. The fake eyelash was real pain. That creepy fake eyelash Alex wears over his right eye? It wasn't CGI. It wasn't even comfortable. It was glued on every single day for hours. Malcolm McDowell had to sit still while makeup artists carefully attached a real-looking curled eyelash to his eyebrow. It blocked part of his vision and made blinking painful. During long shooting days, his eye would water, and sometimes tears would run down his cheek. But Kubrick loved the look. It made Alex feel both elegant and dangerous, like a cat with one eye open. Malcolm once joked that the eyelash gave him a headache worse than his worst hangover. Still, he never complained, because he knew it made Alex unforgettable. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 18. Beethoven made him sick. Alex loves Beethoven, but Malcolm McDowell? Not so much. During filming, Malcolm listened to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony so many times, over and over for scenes where Alex dances or attacks, that he started to feel physically ill. His stomach would twist. His head would pound. One day, after hearing the Ode to Joy for the 100th time, he ran out of the studio and threw up. Kubrick laughed, not cruelly, but with surprise. "That's method acting," he said. Later, Malcolm couldn't listen to Beethoven for years. Even now, he says the music brings back strange memories, violence, ballet moves, and that cold, white bedroom. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 17. The Milk Bar drinks were real, but not milk. In the Korova Milk Bar, Alex and his droogs drink strange white drinks topped with soft-serve swirls. They look like milkshakes, but they weren't. The milk was actually a mix of milk, rum, and sometimes raw eggs. The crew added food coloring to make it glow under the black lights. And those little sculptures of naked women the drinks sat on? Real fiberglass statues built by artists who didn't know how famous they'd become. During one scene, Malcolm accidentally knocked over his drink and it spilled all over the statue. Instead of stopping, Kubrick kept filming. "Do it again," he said, "but messier." The result? A moment that felt raw, real, and slightly unhinged. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 16. Kubrick shot without permission. Stanley Kubrick didn't ask for permission to film in many places. He'd just show up with his camera crew, set up lights, and start shooting. One time, they filmed on a real abandoned building in London. No permits, no warnings. Just a quiet street, a broken door, and a director who believed in capturing truth, not paperwork. The police almost shut them down, but Kubrick talked his way out of it. He said they were making a student film. Another time, they used a real hospital hallway for Alex's recovery scenes. Nurses walked by, confused, as Malcolm lay on a gurney, pretending to wake up from brainwashing. Nobody knew it was A Clockwork Orange, and that secrecy made everything feel more real. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 15. Alex's singing was genuine. When Alex sings Singin' in the Rain during the attack scene, that wasn't dubbed. Malcolm McDowell really sang it, live on set. He'd never formally trained as a singer, but Kubrick wanted raw emotion, not perfection. So Malcolm sang it over and over, sometimes off-key, sometimes too loud, sometimes with a creepy grin. The final version you hear was the fourth take, and Malcolm was exhausted. But Kubrick kept it because it sounded playful and evil at the same time. Years later, the real Gene Kelly, who starred in the original Singin' in the Rain, heard about it and was furious. He hated that his joyful song was used for violence. But Kubrick never apologized. He said art should make people feel uncomfortable. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 14. The typewriter scene broke a real typewriter. In the scene where Alex types a love letter while blindfolded, the typewriter wasn't a prop. It was a real working machine from the 1940s. Malcolm slammed the keys so hard during takes that the metal arms bent. By the third take, the E key jammed. By the fifth, the whole thing stopped working. The prop master panicked, but Kubrick just said, "Good, use the broken one." So they did. You can actually see the typewriter stutter in the final film. It adds to the weird, dreamlike feeling. And that blindfold, made from old silk curtains from Kubrick's own house. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 13. The Ludovico technique was inspired by real experiments. The brainwashing scenes in the movie weren't just made up. Kubrick read about real psychological experiments from the 1950s, where scientists forced prisoners to watch violent films while injecting them with drugs to create nausea. The goal? To cure them of bad thoughts. These experiments were later banned. They were too cruel. But Kubrick thought, what if we showed this on screen? He worked with doctors to design the Ludovico chair, the eye clamps, the flashing lights. During filming, Malcolm had to stay strapped down for hours. His eyes dried out. His neck ached, but he never quit. He said it helped him understand Alex's helplessness. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 12. The ultra-violent scenes were edited by hand. There was no digital editing in 1971. Every cut, every splice, every frame of violence was done by hand, on real film strips. Kubrick and his editor would sit for hours in a dark room, cutting and taping tiny pieces of celluloid together. If they wanted to speed up a punch or slow down a fall, they had to physically rearrange the frames. One violent scene took 3 weeks to edit because Kubrick wanted it to feel like a ballet, graceful and brutal at once. The scissors they used are now in a museum. And the glue? Still on some of the film reels. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 11. The droogs were chosen for their walk. Kubrick didn't just pick actors who looked cool. He picked them based on how they walked. He watched hours of audition tapes, not listening to their voices, just watching their feet, their hips, their shoulders. He wanted Alex's gang to move like predators, smooth, confident, and a little lazy. One actor was almost cut because he walked like a schoolboy. Another was kept just because he tilted his head when he laughed. During rehearsals, they practiced walking in slow motion, then fast, then in rhythm with music. By the time they filmed, their movements were like a secret language. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 10. The film was banned in the UK by its own director. After A Clockwork Orange came out, something strange happened. People loved it. People hated it. Some said it inspired real violence. One man in England even claimed he committed a crime after watching it. Stanley Kubrick got threats, letters, angry phone calls. So in 1972, he did something almost no director has ever done. He pulled his own movie from theaters in the United Kingdom. He asked Warner Brothers not to show it, not to sell it, not to talk about it. And for almost 30 years, you couldn't legally watch A Clockwork Orange in the UK. It became a ghost film, whispered about, bootlegged, but never seen. Kubrick only allowed it back after he died in 1999. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 9. The Cat Lady's House was real and haunted the creepy old woman's house. It wasn't built on a soundstage. It was a real abandoned home in the countryside outside London. Locals said it was haunted. Strange noises, lights flickering. Kubrick didn't care. He loved the cobwebs, the dusty statues, the broken windows. He moved statues of naked men and women into every room, some borrowed from real art galleries. During the murder scene, Malcolm slipped on a wet floor and almost hit his head on a marble bust. The crew gasped, but Kubrick just said, "Again?" The final shot of Alex crawling away? That was real exhaustion, no stunt double, just a young actor covered in fake blood, trying not to cry. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 8. Alex's outfit was designed by a teenager. The iconic white outfit, bowler hat, suspenders, cane, wasn't designed by a famous costume designer. It was sketched by a 17-year-old art student named Milena Canonero. She'd never worked on a film before. Kubrick saw her drawings and said, "This is it." She mixed Edwardian fashion with street punk, creating something timeless and strange. The cane? Found at a flea market. The bowler hat? Reshaped by hand. And the codpiece? Real leather, stuffed with cotton. Malcolm hated wearing it. It was hot and itchy. But he knew it made Alex look like a prince of chaos. Milena later won an Oscar for her work, but she never forgot how nervous she was during fittings. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 7. The rain in the final scene wasn't fake. In the last scene, Alex lies in bed, dreaming of violence while soft rain taps on the window. Most movies use fake rain, sprinklers, hoses, buckets. But Kubrick wanted real weather, so they waited. For 3 days, the crew sat in silence, watching the sky. On the 4th morning, it finally rained. Gentle, quiet, perfect. Kubrick called action, and Malcolm closed his eyes. The rain wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it felt like the world sighing. And that's why the scene gives you chills. It wasn't staged. It was given. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 6. The film's music was a secret weapon. Kubrick didn't use a traditional movie score. Instead, he borrowed classical music, Beethoven, Rossini, Purcell, and twisted it into something dark. He chose pieces that were joyful or silly and paired them with violence. The result? A feeling of unease you can't quite explain. He worked with a composer named Wendy Carlos, who used a new machine called a Moog synthesizer to create electronic versions of old songs. At the time, no one had heard anything like it. The music became a character, cold, smart, and always watching. During previews, audiences said the music stayed in their heads for days. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 5. The eyes were forced open, for real. In the Ludovico scenes, Alex's eyes are held open by metal clamps. Those weren't special effects. They were real medical devices, gently but firmly holding Malcolm's eyelids apart. He couldn't blink. Tears streamed down his face. His eyes burned. After each take, he'd splash cold water on his face just to feel relief. Kubrick checked on him between shots, but never stopped filming. "It's part of the story," he said. Years later, Malcolm admitted he had nightmares about those clamps, but he also said it helped him understand what it feels like to lose control. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 4. The library scene was filmed at night with real books. The public library where Alex attacks the writer? That was a real London library, closed for the night. Kubrick got special permission to film after hours. The books on the shelves? Real. The desks? Real. Even the librarian's coffee cup was left from the day before. During the scene, Malcolm had to knock over a bookshelf, but it was too heavy. So the crew secretly removed half the books, then added them back in post-production. The sound of crashing pages? That was real, and the writer's scream? Not acted. The actor playing him slipped on a wet patch and actually hurt his knee. Kubrick kept rolling. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Number 3. The final smile. Wasn't in the script. The last shot of the movie, Alex grinning in bed saying, "I was cured all right," wasn't written that way in the original script. In the book, Alex grows up and leaves violence behind, but Kubrick changed it. He wanted to leave the audience unsettled. So on the last day of shooting, he asked Malcolm to smile, not a happy smile, but a knowing one. Malcolm didn't understand at first. He tried a few versions. Then Kubrick whispered, "Imagine you're still hungry." That's when the perfect smile happened. Cold, clever, still dangerous. No one on set clapped. They just stared. That wasn't acting. It was real fear. Number 2. The film was shot in Kubrick's backyard. Most of A Clockwork Orange was filmed in and around Stanley Kubrick's home in England. The white government buildings, his neighbor's office, the alleyways, behind his garden, the hospital, a clinic 5 minutes away. Kubrick didn't like traveling far. He wanted control, so he turned his whole neighborhood into a movie set. Even the police car in the film belonged to a local officer who agreed to help for the art. At night, Kubrick would walk the same streets Alex walked, thinking about light, shadow, and silence. What looked perfect on screen almost went wrong behind the camera. Number 1. Alex was based on a real person. The character of Alex wasn't just made up. Stanley Kubrick read a newspaper article in the 1960s about a young British gang leader, smart, charming, violent, and obsessed with classical music. He kept the article in his notebook for years. When he read Anthony Burgess's book, he saw that same boy in Alex. So he told Malcolm, "Play him like he's the smartest person in the room, even when he's doing evil." That's why Alex feels so real, not because he's a villain, but because he's human, flawed, curious, and terrifyingly alive. It looked easy, but it was chaos. Bonus fact, the lost ending, no one saw. There's a secret version of A Clockwork Orange that almost no one has seen. In the original British edition of Anthony Burgess's book, the story has 21 chapters, not 20. In that final chapter, Alex grows older, gets tired of violence, and dreams of having a family. He changes. But when the book was published in America, the publisher cut the last chapter. They thought it was too soft. Kubrick only read the American version, so his movie ends with Alex still dangerous. But years later, Burgess was furious. He said Kubrick missed the point. The story was about free will and change. In 1986, a restored version of the book came out with all 21 chapters, but the film never changed. Kubrick refused. He believed evil doesn't just disappear, and maybe he was right. One small choice changed movie history. A Clockwork Orange isn't just a movie about violence. It's a warning, a question, a mirror. It asks, can we change people by force? Should we? And what happens when we take away someone's choice, even if they're bad? Stanley Kubrick didn't give us easy answers. He gave us images that stick in your mind like glass shards, beautiful, sharp, and unforgettable. And Malcolm McDowell? He gave us a performance that still haunts us, not because Alex is a monster, but because he feels real. Maybe that's the true genius of this film. It doesn't show us evil from far away. It invites us inside and makes us wonder what we'd do in that white room with our eyes wide open. If you enjoyed these stories, subscribe for more. Every movie hides a truth, and we'll keep uncovering them, one story at a time.